Hello, hello. As soon as I unmute my mic, it collapses. Coincidence? I doubt it. Good to be back with you all. Had a really busy day yesterday, but a very productive and happy one. And it's late now. Just finished watching Castle in the Sky for my 1.5 time. And it was very nice. Now it's pleasantly late and it's time to figure out how to do some fancy stuff in Dreams. I hope the audio level might be a little high. Let me just drop the music level slightly. Hopefully that'll be better. Okay. So, let's recap where I am in this problem. To recap in general where I am with Advent of Code in Dreams, I am on day 16, and that is the final day that I will be doing, because this problem is an absolute doozy. It is so hard. It is just incredible. So, I am attempting to get a screen share going here, where I have some stuff written down about the problem from last stream that I can use to recap. Let's just make sure that my screen share is using the right window and it's visible. So, day 16 is this gnarly problem where you have to figure out the optimal path to follow through a set of pipes and valves such that you open all the valves in the order that releases the maximum amount of pressure within the allotted time. You have 30 minutes to get through this pipe maze that you see here. And each valve has a pressure amount associated with it. You start at A, it takes you 1 minute to move to a valve and 1 minute to open it. From that point forward, it releases pressure once per minute at the rate shown here. Your objective is, given the 30 minutes, release as much pressure as possible, like I said. Now, the way you do that, the way that I'm choosing to solve this, which is based on the best approach that I know, this is essentially equivalent to, you're essentially just picking the valve order that you want to follow. What order do you want to open all the valves in? No. And what that really means is that the number of possibilities for how you can solve the problem is equal to the number of permutations of the set of valves here. Each permutation of this set is an order that you could visit the valves in. Now, I've specifically chosen only the non-zero valves here. There's no reason to visit and open a valve that has zero pressure behind it, so we can exclude them from the problem. That unfortunately means, though, that there are 720 possible orders that you could visit these valves in. It's not great. So, we are nonetheless going to push ahead. If the final Dreams program takes a half hour to run, so be it. I hope it doesn't. I should be able to run many parts of the program concurrently in order to speed things up, but we'll just have to see how that goes in the end. So, the plan that I made last stream is as follows. We have to do these 4 major objectives. First, figure out how to iterate through all the permutations. We figured out how to do that last stream. Find the shortest path from node to node. When you're at a certain node and you want to go to another node, you need to know which path to follow. Essentially, each node needs to make a table of all the other nodes where the values stored in the table are which edge we go to. Essentially, I suppose the natural way to do this is what adjacent node should you go directly to? Although that may not be strictly practical. In any case, we just need to know which path of the graph to go down. So to do so will essentially involve Dijkstra's algorithm, which is going to be interesting to say the least. We then have to have one elf. I'm going to have an elf in this problem running around doing stuff, interacting with these valves. We need to have one permutation run at a time. And then we need to speed it up by running n jobs concurrently. That is the roadmap here. Now, how we achieve that, we'll see. We have essentially today, tomorrow, Friday, maybe Saturday to stream this. But it would have to be like Saturday morning. I mean, it's Christmas Eve for crying out loud. So, tonight, with what little time I have, given that I'm starting my stream at 11 p.m., the goal is to do some Dijkstra's algorithm stuff to find the shortest path from node to node. However, we are going to take a brief detour before we do that to skim through a tutorial by the wonderful Tap Giles, a Dreams content creator who makes tutorials and documentation. We've been looking at his documentation occasionally. I recently subscribed to him on Patreon in order to get access to a tutorial he did about simple pathfinding and making enemies like actually route around obstacles in the environment to get to you, which really piqued my interest because, like, for crying out loud, that's exactly what I want to do, right? Now, that said, I want to, like, let's see here. I want to skim through his technique and see if I can apply it to my own system, because it would be nice to not have to do everything super mega recursively. But if I have to do everything super mega recursively, then so be it. I am familiar with how to do so. So, let's pause the music, turn on Tap Giles, enjoy our Christmas cookies, and learn a little something about pathfinding in dreams. Ooh, nice.
Go to tapgiles.com to learn dreams, engage my services, and support the channel. I recently made this simple pathing demo where the characters will figure out how to get to you and route around the walls and stuff instead of just running into walls. So if I hold X, that'll make some more characters.
Quality, please. Here, let's view it directly on YouTube. Let's view it directly on YouTube. YouTube. Can we do that?
Make some more characters. Doesn't matter where I am. They'll all find me, so if I make some more, they'll be finding me from...
So you can see that they are all starting in this room, routing around things in the environment to get to him.
Far away.
This is very intriguing.
Figure out where I am. And you could even change the pathing area so they can still adjust to now having this route to go down.
This is very good stuff, obviously. Now, I'm going to skip some of this stuff. I was skimming much of the tutorial earlier, but didn't really get to sort of the core piece of it. I can briefly summarize. He was starting with some simple techniques for making the puppet follow tags instead of the player. Now, the way that works, he ended up setting a mover on, or a follower on the puppet that he wanted to be running around instead of using the following feature built into the puppet. And he had to make some tweaks to do that. That was nice to see. He's doing some stuff where he pipes a tag value into a wireless transmitter, and the wireless transmitter takes up kind of the whole area so that the puppet knows where it needs to actually run.
towards the tag works
so
fine, but walking towards the player, not so much, because it has no acceleration. So it takes very slow steps. So the player's in the same room, so this is powered and sending the player's position to the follower. If we go into playtest mode, then I can run around and it's following us okay. And then if I jump outside, now we're not in the room and it's going towards the door. But now it's just staying in the room. It's not actually going outside of the room.
So this is more or less where I got distracted and need to learn. Well, actually, I did get a little farther. So he has some stuff with exclusive gates, which is a feature in Dreams that I've really never used, which time and time again causes me to just waste a bunch of time. Hey, YouTube, it would be great if you actually, like, loaded videos for me tonight. Hey, YouTube, please load the tutorial.
We can actually use the tag output for that. So if we have a trigger zone, and I'll just move it down here so it's where the tag is, and have that look for tags, and then we tell it to look for this tag by its name, pathing, then this will detect that tag because it's in the zone and send a signal from detected. Also, this tag will send a signal from tag output because it's been detected. However, if you
Is that how that works?
give it some fall off, so you can adjust the size of it with R2.
So tags actually output when they're being detected, in addition to trigger zones outputting when they detect a tag. Okay, that's neat.
If you hold Shift, which on the gamepad is L1, and then do R2, you're dragging out a fall off. So when the tag is in this central area, it's sending the full signal of 100%. When it's just to the edge of it, it's sending a lower signal. And when it's outside of the fall off, it will send no signal at all. So we know how close this tag is to the center of this trigger zone by it sending the signal higher if it's nearer the center and lower when it's further from the center. And that's what we want for our exclusive gate priority. So we just wire that into the priority and it kind of multiplies it like that. So if we make this a really large number, then we'll get a finer degree of precision as we move. If it was just 10.
See, I've really never used the exclusive gate. I don't know why. But this seems smart because it, like, the priority thing, I hadn't thought about, like, dynamically changing priority in order to sort of do a global switch between objects in the scene. That seems really smart.
Then it would just be an integer between 1 and 10. And so these might be too similar and then it doesn't know which one to pick or something like that. So we just make this a large number and then any tiny will and be able to better tell which one to pick.
That's his video, not me.
Yeah, we'll do the same for this. That'll be fine. That'll be fine. Also, if we don't really want the exclusive gate to be trying to open unless it's anywhere close to the player from this zone. So we could just send that signal into here. As long as it's positive, it will try to open. And that into there as well. So now if this zone is, let's make the core of the zone, the inner part, really small and the fall off really big. Now it's on this side, this tag is closer, so that exclusive gate is open. When we move it to the other side...
I'm a little confused by the fact that he just cavalierly just chooses two large numbers for his exclusive gate priorities. I feel like he's going to have to set them to be the same or he's going to get weird results.
That tag is closer, so that exclusive gate is open. And then what do we want to happen then? We want it to send its signal, its transform, into the node over here, but only if this gate is open. There's actually a cool feature where the signal going into here will come out of here, only if the gate is open, and it will just send a 0 if it's closed. So instead we could wire that into here instead of the tag output, and now while this gate is open it will send that position into our node over here. And we'll do the same for this one. We'll use the transform and we'll use the gate output.
So to recap what I'm understanding here, he's got a trigger zone detecting, I guess he has 2 different tags that represent 2 different like places that you might want the like enemy characters to run to. The proximity to the player character activates one exclusive gate or the other, and therefore sets the target. The thing that I want to get to in this video is how to like chain that into like a path.
So that's about all you need in this area. Because the transform never changes, it will always be trying to open, but it doesn't matter too much. It will just go through, and now this logic is very simple. It will go through and send into the node, which will tell everything in this room to go to a particular tag, the closest tag to the player. So we'll have one of those here, and we'll have one of those here, and we'll wire that into our node over here. Cool. So that's closer to the player, so it'll mosey on over to there, and then come to our player. So we don't want this trigger zone to just be sitting in the middle.
I'm trying to remember how it switched to the player.
So that the proximity of the player is what matters. So we'll put that down by our player. One problem you might find is if you are dragging the core and you go whomp to make it 0 size, then it can stop detecting anything. It kind of freaks out and doesn't know what to do. So instead you can put it down to 0 by tweaking the trigger zone and setting the zone size, which is the core area, to 0, and then it'll work.
Weird.
And we probably want this fall off to be quite big to cover all of our map, so that any tags that are closest to it will work. So now if we play time, we've got both of these positions we can go to, and this one is closer to our player, so it's going to go over there and then move to our player like that, and we can move our player down here and it should go to this one down here. Yay, it's going to the right, towards the right door, and then comes out the room and then starts going towards the player. Sweet. And even if the player is like over here, it's still going to go towards the right door and then over here. Of course, now if I am playing like this and I hide over here, it's going to get outside the door, and then now it's coming over here. You can see it like automatically repathing where to go. But if I hide behind here, it will get outside the door and then kind of just start bumping into walls again because it doesn't know what to do. So we need to give it some more instructions for this area out here. So we have another zone over here, and we'll adjust the size of the zone.
So is he going to basically make a nav mesh here?
So when you're out here, you should be going to either there or there or there. But there's a problem that we'll encounter, and I'll catch it before it happens because it's just going to be easier. These exclusive gates and these tags all work together. So these exclusive gates, only one of these gates can be open at one time, that's why we're using them. But then if we have like another one over here for going between the hedges and the wall, if the player's over here, that's going to take over. And
does he have to power those on? I'm trying to like guess what he's doing now.
Picked up as the closest one because that's the closest one now. So we need to kind of group these up. so that only those two will talk to each other and figure out which of those is closest. And then we'll have other ones out here to figure out which ones of these are closest. So we can literally group these up.
Oh.
Like that. And now if you look at the exclusive gate settings, there's a scope setting.
Oh.
So by default it's on everywhere, and that's why they will interfere with each other. If we set it to here, it will only choose between other ones that are in the same group. So we change this one to here as well. And now one of these will be open, which is this one, and this one can be open as well. So we want these to be grouped up as well. So remember to go back and set these other ones. So where can we go from this area? If the player isn't in this area, we might want to go through here or through here.
This is the key thing that I need to understand for what I'm doing.
So let's go into here and just make more of these. One by the door, one by the alleyway. Again, we don't want them to be in this zone. So just move it like that. That's just outside. And then we need to wire them all in. And we can actually remove this switch. It just doesn't really do anything. It will just send the signal through. So we can make a new wire and do that. Delete that switch to make the logic simpler. Cool. So it should now walk out into here. Now it's not walking out to here. Okay, if you start having trouble with figuring out why this is going the direction it's going, we can have a little debugging thing. So let's just make a little cube or a big cube, and we'll make it follow to wherever this is trying to get to. So we're sending in a target position into this follower to use. We can just take that and send it into another follower. But this one, instead of moving slow, we'll move it super fast.
Oh, that's going to be like instantaneous.
Make sure this is non-collidable, otherwise it will start crashing into things. So it's moving to whichever position this character is trying to get to. So it's trying to get to our character over there, but it's kind of getting through the wall a bit. So if we make this zone a bit wider, hopefully it'll get all the way out. Yeah, and then start following. And you can test by like moving the character to start in a different place, or moving the player to start in a different place. Things like that.
I love seeing these just basic debugging techniques that I haven't really picked up on.
So let's put the player outside of that new zone over here and see what it does. Make sure to wire the right thing into it. The cool thing is, if you're working on these pathing things, you can scope into one of the groups, and the other ones will kind of fade out or not be visible at all. So now you can focus on just these nodes and see what's going on if you need to figure out a problem. And now it's going to follow out and then into the zone, and now it's going to try and get over to that zone. It's kind of getting caught on there, but it makes it around, and now it's going towards the player. Yay! Something you can also do to kind of hide away this stuff is if a group only has gadgets in it, then it will show those gadgets in that group.
So he's a little bit perhaps cheating in the sense that he's not really making like a nav mesh like I thought he might. I shouldn't say cheating. This is a great technique. Whether it helps me, I'm not sure. But I wanted to learn what he did here. So here's the thing. His technique seems to be that it always goes toward, it's essentially always trying to go toward the player, but it's going toward one of a few points in its particular zone that is closest to the player, which kind of works, like in a sort of greedy algorithm path following sense. It works because you can construct zones then that have path following points in appropriate places for it to like target toward, and then it'll cross over into the next zone, at which point it chooses the closest point to the player in that zone. Then it crosses to the next zone, closest point to the player in that zone. This is a very, very pragmatic solution, and I like it a lot. Does it help me? Probably not. But we'll see.
If you just add something else in there that's not a gadget, like a fleck, I like to use a white fleck so it's really obvious. And you can just turn that painting off entirely. But now it won't show it. So if I close that window, now that group is completely hidden unless you go show hide, turn off preview invisibility, and now you see like where the main node is. And now you can copy that into this one. That one will disappear. Cool. And what if we are over here? We'll probably come through this doorway. And now again we don't know what to do, so let's copy.
Yeah. So I think the simplicity of this setup. I do want to see this. YouTube.
So first off, the setup of each zone is very cheap and quick to make.
I do love that.
You can improve it if you want to. You can like lay this out differently. You could have this stuff in here, there, and then move the gizmos around, or you could use Wi-Fi to communicate with this chip, as was suggested by Vince Cully. Things like that, if you want to do. But it's very cheap. Each zone is very cheap, and then for the actual characters, the logic is very cheap in here. So you can actually have a lot of these characters, and it will work just fine. So what I'm going to do is emit a load of these all around the level.
Okay, I am a little curious about the changing the map part, but it's irrelevant to me. I'm just curious about it.
Go through. Now, if I spawn some dudes, they'll just get stuck there because they don't know, oh, I should probably back up and go to the other end and then try and get around that way. I'm using a switch to control this gate. So if the gate's down, we can say that this one is available. And then we'll see if that works. So now they're not trying to go down there, even though that's a closer tag. Only thing is they'll kind of go to the end and gather there. So it might be worth powering that, allowing this node only if that gate isn't open as well. So if they're in here, they'll go over here. With,
this is so clever. This is such a basic, straightforward, excellent way of solving these problems.
They'll try and go down here instead. So let's see if that works. Right, so we're going to the end, and they're going around the end. Yay! It's working. So if they're in that zone, then we want to allow.
This is so clever. It's so simple. I mean, like, I love it. I just love it. It's so simple. It's beautiful.
Those as well. This is if we're in the zone. We can make sure that one's allowed if we're in that zone. And they can still come down here.
Because like you can even just override the like overall system on a case-by-case basis in such a trivial way. It's beautiful.
But they're they're getting there. I think they're getting stuck between the doorways. There we go. So if we're in this zone, we probably don't want it to go through.
All right. I will ponder if that works for me. I'm not sure that this helps me. I am glad to learn how the exclusive gate works better. It's possible that that could do something for me because I can do it scoped within a group. I'll keep that in mind. So yeah, this is great. I'm very happy to see this whole tutorial here. Let me link Tap Giles' Patreon while I'm here. I subscribe to him on Patreon, and I think you should too if you use Dream stuff, because you know, when I started doing Dreams, I was like, man, I would love to have like really robust documentation for like just like more serious documentation of every node, just because Like, the stuff that Media Molecule provides is like pretty basic. And lo and behold, I come back a couple years later and Tapgiles has done exactly that, where you have the tapgiles.com/docs site where you just have all of this beautiful stuff, like detailed descriptions of all the menus, all the nodes, just everything. I mean, just absolutely everything. So, wonderful stuff. And with that, I will get back to my own problem, but thank you, Mr. Tapgiles, for that. So, let's get back into Dreams here. Where's OBS? Let's get our N64 jungle mix going again. Trip hop at the moment. And while I eat my remaining Christmas cookie, which I forgot to do because I was so fascinated by the video, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the code that we wrote last time, which goes through all of the permutations of the numbers 0 through 5, where we start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when we run this now, I can hit the button and it cycles to the next one that doesn't have any repeats. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 4. 0, 1, 2, 4, 3, 5. And so on. Let's see here. Come on. I'm so close to having it lined up perfectly here. Come on. No. And look how many options it cycled through there. Beautiful. I love it. I just love it. So, that's a really great start, but I do need to get to the rest of the problem now as I laid it out. So, let's rewind time. Collapse our permutator node, which is just the chunkiest, among the chunkiest microchips I've ever made. And let's start thinking about how we're going to do the whole graph shortest path thing. And let me get the screen share going again. So, here is what I'm thinking we need to do. Somehow we need to have some type of node in our scene. Because we need to represent, I'll just draw it out on the graph up here. Because we need to somehow lay out and represent the overall node system that we have listed up here. And what we need to do is somehow for each of these nodes, each node needs basically a table on it that has the distances to each, not really the distances to each node per se. I'll simplify it. It'll probably have all the letters, more than just 6, but if we're going to have B, C, D, E, H, J, those are the nodes that we need to visit. I essentially only need to know which direction to go if I want to get to that node. So if I'm on, oh, I chose a terrible example in node J. We're going to say we're looking at node D here. Essentially, I need something to the effect of, if I want to go to node B, then I need to go there via node A or via node C. Both would be equivalent in this case, but I'll go to node A. If I wanted to go, whoops, drew that onto the wrong thing. If I wanted to go to node C, I would go directly to node C. It's one away, there's no ambiguity. If I wanted to go to node D, I mean, this is irrelevant. This is like not applicable. To node E, you would go directly to node E. To node H, you would go to node E, because E is the closest node on the way from D to H. And for J, we would go to A. So, we need to build up a table like this for every single node in order for this simulation to run correctly. Because then what we can do is, if we're on D and we want to go to J, we can say, okay, that means move to A first, and then it would move to A. And then it would say, okay, I'm on A and I want to move to J. Well, look up J in the table, and it would say, move to I. And then on I, it would say, okay, now move to J, right? The graph is sort of encoded, like our decisions about how to traverse the graph are already encoded into the nodes of the graph at that point. And this is just going to be absolutely critical for this thing to actually run in any reasonable way, because I can't be flooding the graph every time. Now what this actually means though, I need to somehow actually determine the shortest path. And the problem is there are in fact multiple paths to many of these nodes because this graph has cycles in it. I mean really just one cycle, but it's got a cycle in it, right? Which means that like, if I wanted to know how to get from D to A, I could go straight there. Well, actually, let's consider going from D to J, right? The shortest path is up to A, then down to I, then down to J. Obviously, that's 3. We can see that just visually. However, it would be valid, but not shortest, to go to C, B, A, I, J. Right? That's 5 hops instead of 3. Obviously, we don't want to do 5 hops if we can get away with 3, but that's the problem. We have to actually figure out what is the shortest path through this graph. Now, what I did before, which I could basically do again, but like it might be kind of terrifying, is just spawn a bunch of independent actors that kind of go along the adjacent, like all available paths. Just propagate through the graph. Because then, I mean, that would essentially fill out the table all at once. So let me like preview what that might look like. If we had here, I need to make a bigger table because it's going to actually be important. So we're going to have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. What I can do is on D, I can sort of, I have to encode like the adjacency data into the program somewhere. So I'm going to say that's a given. I can just hard code that on each node. So I'm going to know that I'm adjacent to A, I'm adjacent to C, and I'm adjacent to E, right? I can then have each of those, I can just spawn a mover thinger, which will move over to whatever that adjacent node is. In doing so, incrementing its like distance by 1. We need to basically, I think, save a couple pieces of information at each node. So what we're going to see then, these mover thingers are all going to be sort of connected back to D. And when they arrive at a node, they will record some information for us. So these are all going to arrive at, so we're going to have one arrive at A, and it's going to say that, like, oh. This doesn't entirely solve my problem, does it? Well, we'll figure something out here, but we'll say that, like, we'll pretend here that we had kept track of the path along the way, and we say, aha, I found A. We got there by following the path to A, and we got there in one step. Another node arrives at C and is like, aha, I found C, and I got there in one step. I got to C by going to C. I know this feels redundant, but it won't be so much in the next step. Likewise for E. So then we are going to have our little graph agent things all at these different places, and they are going to spawn stuff along their adjacency lists. Now these still all belong to D. These are D's graph agents. So let's consider what A's is doing for now. It's got 3 edges, so it's gonna follow like this. Now I realize there's a redundant one back to D, but like, so be it. Let's consider this one first. So that one finds I. I'm dumb, I didn't actually finish my table here. H-I-J. Okay, so this one finds I, and like I said, we're gonna pretend we're keeping track of the path. It's like, I found I by following the path to A. Oh, I can track that pretty easily, actually, yeah. So, I found J by following the path to A. Or I found I by following the path to A, and I got there in 2 steps. This is all the table data for D. B, then the one that went back to D, I guess, shoot, okay, so here's another nuance. D should have been filled in at the beginning with 0. Pretending I had done that. This is me figuring out an algorithm live. Pretending I had done that. When this one arrives back at D, it's like, why am I here? D was already visited. We could perhaps even suppress that earlier, but one way or another, it's just like, D is already in D's table, and so there's no need to record another one, and so we will just scrap that. That one just doesn't affect any of the data. The one that goes to B found, okay, I got to B by going to A first, and with a distance of 2. So that does it for that step. Now there were simultaneously, there was the one that went to C, and so that's going to follow these 2 nodes. It's going to follow back along these. That one is going to be suppressed on both counts, because it's like, well, I got to B by, B already has a record in the table, so it's moot. You know, we won't overwrite it. The one that went to E, on the other hand, gets to follow these 2 paths. The one that goes to D gets suppressed, but the one that goes to F says, I got to F by going to E first with a distance of 2. We recursively repeat, not recursively, kind of recursively, semi-recursively repeat this process. So we're going to have a pass on I that propagates in these directions. That one's going to discover that you get to J by going to A, and with a distance of 3. Which is exactly what we want to see, right? And the other one gets suppressed. And to skip ahead to the end, because the algorithm has become relatively clear to me, G and H both fill in as you go to E in order to get to G or H with distances of 3 and 4, respectively. So, I need to set up the basics of this whole node thing It's non-trivial, but make it happen. I'll make it happen. Okay, fellas. This track is a little weird and annoying. So, let's figure out how to represent a graph in our dreams world. So, for now, I'm going to be, well, let's search the Dreamiverse for, like, Valve. Because that's what we're talking about, right? The Valve. The Valve. Ooh, this looks nice. Does it rotate? It certainly could, because this is a separate object. So, excellent. This will do just fine. So let's grab ourselves a microchip to put on this thing. Let's get it open and start putting some wires or something on here. I don't even know what all we're gonna need. So I know that we're going to need essentially an adjacency list of some kind, like to know which nodes are adjacent to which other nodes, which essentially just means iterating through stuff. Kind of annoying, but so be it. We're going to Well, here, let's think about the fundamentals. We need to be sort of advertising location to other things in the program so that other things can go to us, which is exciting. So let's think about that first. We're going to have Dr. Mario in this mix now. I'm not sure that's jungle music exactly. We need a tag on this thing that basically like tells us exactly where we are so that we can use that for pathfinding and whatever other fanciness later. Let's see, align to grid, yeah. This is, I need a little grid alignment here. And you as well will be aligned to the grid right there. The location of this thing, I'm just gonna preemptively make a node that passes this out so that we can sort of easily grab it in our scene and pass that along to other things. I feel like we will want this. And we're going to need inputs from other nodes in order to actually like send from one to the other, because fundamentally what we're going to need is a follower on something. This we don't want the whole valve to be following anything, so this is not quite right, but you know, we're going to have presumably some let's see, this is the rare time when I'm actually going to use the bypass input on this. We're going to say that we have the tag position coming through here. We're going to, in fact, pipe that right into the follower position thing so that that's where this will, or our little follower thing will want to move to. Or I guess that's what we'll use when we spawn such a thing. We won't be doing that directly, but that'll be part of the overall process. Get me back to the crazy Bomberman stuff in this playlist. I think we will need... I should start making my little, like, follower thing right now. We're going to make a sculpt in here. Still in sort of grid zone. It'll just be a sphere. That'll be fine. But I'm going to color it white. There we go. So we're still in the overall group. What that lets me do, I can then like change the tint on it to make it. Oh wait, can I change the tint on it? Tint amount. Huzzah. So we can have this guy running around from thing to thing, gathering information. As I do so, let's see, it will have its own microchip on it that has some internal state, and that'll be all wired back to the main thing. So we'll tie those together. So what is this gonna have on it? Let's see. We definitely need a, like, I think that we're going to need like wireless transmitter, wireless receiver stuff on it. Probably transmitter, because when we get to a node, we need to receive data from that node about oh no, this is gonna be really hard. This is gonna be really hard. Yeah, well, so be it. So be it. Pieces are coming together in my head, but this is going to be difficult. So we're going to get the node info signal here. We will do so only here within our group in order to ensure that we don't confuse anything, don't have data bleeding out to other groups. That's not true. We're going to have it happening everywhere. That's actually important to have it happening everywhere, because the groups are going to be scoped for other reasons. We are going to have wires back to this for some reason. What those reasons are sort of remain to be seen. I should make an emitter up here while I'm thinking of it. Because we need this emitter to emit this whole group with this microchip. This is going to be the thing that follows the thing. So we need... I need to do a little experiment, just sort of like outside of everything. I want to grab a tag. I want to grab a variable. I want to grab a variable modifier, which will power stuff continuously. That will continuously be accepting the transform of this thing, and I am curious if variables can store more than single numbers. Can they store entire fat wire values? It would be convenient if they can. Right. I think the answer is no, because variable output is itself a complicated fat wire value. Not ideal. Not ideal. I mean, it's fine. I can decompose positions into like 3 different things if I have to, but it's just, you know, it's kind of sad that I can't. Oh well. Oh well. That's my little experiment done. Now let's consider, I guess, what this thing is going to be doing. It's going to move over to a node, and in order to do so, it needs to know where that node is. In order to do that, it needs to have the node position programmed into it at the time that it is emitted, which means that we need variables for the X, Y, Z all right on this thing. Dest X, dest Y, dest Z, dest Z. This is why I wanted to see if I could avoid doing this. It would have been really nice if I could just have one variable that just stores the entire position, but alas. Oh, don't give me this Glover garbage. This is gross. Glover's a weird game. So those are where I'm trying to go. And that, I suppose, means that's what should go into this follower. So let's bundle that up into a position. Whoops. Or that is a 3 number. And we'll plop that into the target position thing. This thing can have, well, let's see, I should actually... Oh, where's my preview visibility, huh? Thanks. You should not be able to collide with things. I need to make sure that that is turned off. But besides that, we'll go ahead and do that. What we can do then, I think, is, you know, we can have it following at some speed, I guess. Whatever speed is fine. We'll make it fairly strong and damped, and we don't need to provide a tag because it'll be following based on the position that we pass in. So this should, upon emitting, mean that it just immediately moves to whatever we've set, although we need to actually set it. So let's grab a node. Let's grab that input position. All this stuff can sort of scoot to the right because we're going to need to modify it in a second, or build something symmetric to it. We'll say destination coordinates come in here, and we can then get our variable modifiers. These are only going to set the variables when powered, and only here in this scope, only in this tiny scope, so that we really truly don't mess with anybody else's variables. Need more of those. We need to split out. This destination thing is going to be a wire of type 3 number, which I'm just going to conveniently set up here so that when I get a splitter, we have the right type of data. At which point we can pass the XYZ. Oh, that's weird. It didn't. Oh, it didn't do it over here either. Huh. That's strange. There we go. There, so that will set these variables. That will set the destination right when we emit this thing. As long as we emit with wires, which is the thing I always need to remember to do. I suppose the emit location should also be sort of on the grid at, like, ourselves. Let me turn on grid snap again and grid snap, no help. Who needs it? Precise move will help though. So we'll spawn those in like right about there. Nicely nestled inside the object. That's just where they'll actually emit from. Oh, I also need to make sure not to have too many things emitted, and so on. There's going to be some real deep shenanigans involved in, well, I wonder if my emitter situation can be somewhat simpler by centralizing all the emission in the parent object, since they're all going to be wired up anyway. I think we might be able to get away with this. We might. I might be able to get away with something. But for the time being, let's just worry about, let's see, what other data do we need over here? We also need the depth of this thing. Or the distance, I guess, is the better term. Distance from the source node. Oh, these aren't setting Y and Z. I didn't remember to update that. Thank goodness I caught that, or I'd be in for a world of hurt. We are going to need a node coming in to set that thing initially as well. And we'll need a variable modifier for that. So all those variables will get set. The distance is just going to be part of the data that we save per node. I guess part of that also, I need to make the sort of table that we're going to store everything into per node, and per what I've recently learned, I can do that with a timeline, which is wild, actually. Like, actually wild. So let's make some room here. Because it turns out that a timeline is actually just a power on, power off machine. And that's really all it is. You can put stuff on the timeline, such as you can put keyframes on it, which is sort of the like intended thing in a lot of ways, because that is used to like animate between things. But you can also put like literally anything you want on it. You can put a timer on the timeline, and then whenever the playhead is in that position, it'll just run that, which is wild. So what this actually allows me to do is, like, I can just set a bunch of stuff on the timeline that we can like write data into or whatever, and like this will actually just work. Wow, that's jank. So that's just a visual bug. Ha! That's really funny. The timer looks correct if and only if the timer is the width that you would expect it to be on a normal thing here. What happens if I put a selector on one of these? Ha! They all look so jank. More ports. More ports. I want 100 ports. That's funny. Obviously, you shouldn't do that. There's no reason to anyway. But what I can do with this is, let's see. I had this working before where like each I had essentially like a set of things that could like enable, I don't know, see the thing is it's not actually any different from using a selector that way. So maybe I don't want to use a timeline for this, but I did manage to get sort of like read and write behavior going with a list, which is like pretty exciting. What I think maybe I'll just do is I'll make my list, which I know that there are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, 10 nodes that we have to worry about in this initial problem. And I'm gonna go sculpt nodes that can sort of store that data easily and visibly for me. They will be hidden in the actual game. You are going to be invisible and not collidable. You exist to have a microchip on you, and this is your only purpose. Let's see here. Grid snap. Hey, grid snap is really busted in this game. It's just actually super busted. So let's see, what's on each of these? We're going to need actually let's see, how do I break I need to break this microchip connection. I need to create a new level of group here. Because I need more variables, even more. This is going to store the I mean, per what I was looking at in the problem, I need to store, I wanted to store the like distance away that each node was for tiebreaker reasons. So that's one variable, as well as the edge I need to follow, but I'm not sure if that should be an ID or a literal position. Kind of feel like it should be a position, but we'll see. We will see. Sorry, just mulling over a few things in my head. We need distance, and we need I have this conundrum here where I can't tell if I want to like if I say that I want to go to a particular node and I want to I'm going to need the coordinates of it eventually. Do I store those coordinates directly, or do I store an ID and then look up the coordinates based on the like tag that's coming in or whatever? Honestly, that kind of makes more sense to me, but it makes for like another lookup that feels kind of unpleasant. Because the lookup state is going to be involved in other stuff, so. Yeah, I'm going to store the positions. So, go. I'm going to call it go to X and go to Y and go to Z. We're just going to have 3 variables for that. What is another 3 variables, really? Now each of these is going to need a variable modifier that we can power. That will work only in this scope, so that will be distance again, because that's what this one is called. And then go to X, go to Y, go to Z. Oh, there we go. Go to Z, go to Y, go to X, distance. Go to Z, go to Y, go to X, distance. If we want to do, like, I'm going to have a node coming in that's like set. And this will be wired into power on all of these. And I guess all the data coming out is going to want to be like wired out in some way too. The XYZ, here, I guess I do need nodes for go to. This is going to be split out into 3 because it's going to have 3 coming in. And up here, we're going to have a node for the distance. We will mirror those on the other side for the output, simply changing them to be output nodes instead. And we will collapse it back down into here. This will be of type 3 number, and I get to choose this time. Okay. Suppose I should actually wire this. And there we go. This should allow me to actually set this stuff on this microchip here. What I can do now, assuming I might hold off on setting quite everything for now because I need to have 10 of them, but I need to make sure the code is right before I copy paste them all. Otherwise it'll be a royal pain. So I kind of want to set that up first. So we're gonna have other tags outside of this thing coming in with their positions to these selectors. Unfortunately, I think I need my init delay thing. Because when you're using bypass mode, everything sucks. And imagining then that we have, oh, let's see, we do need a variable representing, or a value representing our own ID, because that's part of the path following process. We need to know who we are so that we can tell that to any incoming nodes. So let's do it one indexed starting at A, so that'll really just be from 1 to 10. If this one, for example, was D, then that would be 4. We definitely want... Here, let's make it A. Just because I want this one to have its position, and I guess it's position only, not its full transform. Piped down into this thing so that we can set that data right away, and the distance will be 0. And that one will just always set, like, that'll just be sort of a special case, I guess. But back up to here, we are going to need a selector. This will all get microchipped to hell, but we're going to need a selector with conveniently 10 ports on it that represent which of these 10 things is like actively being read from, or being written to. So I guess that might make for 2 such selectors. This one we'll say is the setting selector, and so that would go into, this needs to be renamed set. Say. As for reading values out of it, I guess I'm not sure. Over here, I just realized this thing needs a destination ID. Just keep the variables coming. Because that also needs a variable modifier. So that when we spawn it, it will persistently know exactly where it is ultimately going. Wait, it doesn't have such a thing. What am I saying? Irrelevant. These things will just be propagating across the whole graph. So that won't be an issue. These kinds of things are so tricky because you have to be thinking like about one instance, and you have to think about writing code that serves for this instance and for the other instance, for one instance of the thing running around on the graph, and then subsequently more instances of the thing running across the graph. Like, you know, it's kind of difficult. I could do. We're into the Bomberman Hero block of all this track now, which is apparently just like a crazy good soundtrack. I feel like I'm getting a little lost, and I need to like step back and go step by step a bit here. The first thing that I need to do is iterate through all the available positions, like tag positions that I have, and spawn an emitter that's going to go to each of those 3 places. The weird thing is that I'm going to need to repeat the process for each valve that I visit with an entirely different and arbitrary set of these things, which makes me kind of think that actually what I should maybe do is not have this selector here. I'm gonna need to be receiving a signal from, well, maybe I do need this. Yeah, you know what, screw it. We're gonna go through this for now. If it changes, it changes. But I need to iterate through all the list of the nodes that I am adjacent to. That has to be hard-coded anyway. And I will emit a thinger that will follow from node to node, you know? So, that, for example, because we're doing the like bypass mode here, means that we will just sort of pass that right along to scene space transform here. That's where it's gonna, or no, that's not right. That's not right. It's an emitter, so it's going to emit at our own location. Tell you what, I don't even need to do that. I might just do 2 emitters in some cases here. Why are you way up there? What did I change? Does this like move around when I move this on the graph? No, and thank goodness. Why is this being weird? I could have sworn that I... Oh. It is actually spawning that thing in the right place. Probably, maybe. Unclear why the object is offset from the position of this, but you can see that as I drag that around, that's where it's actually spawning the ball. Couldn't tell you why, but I won't question it for now. The selector is really the wrong thing to do here. We need my iterator, because my iterator is the only thing I trust in this world. And really what this means is we just need like the use input will power this emitter. The input value, the index needs to, I guess, power a selector like we were doing. So maybe this is actually fine and I shouldn't have been so quick to delete. Typical. Because we're going to spawn one of those, but actually the index here of this thing will go into the active port thing on here so as to select which destination we're actually going to be going toward. We're going to spawn these gizmos with a value of 1 for the distance away. Each time we spawn it, we want to give it like, how far are you now from the node in you know, incremental integer steps. So we can literally just hard code 1 for now. Or better yet, I don't need to do anything with that because I can, nah, I'll hard code a 1. Better to be explicit. One. Literally just wire that across to here. That is the distance that you are going to start with. As for the destination, that is going to be piped across from these like tags. And that's something that I kind of have to set up manually, which now is where I guess I should have kept this around. Because like, for example, all of the, in order to make sure that my wiring isn't completely insane, I need a node. One of our positions for the destination is going to be sent out to the goober that we spawn. There we go. We can then iterate through all that, obviously, using this thing. So as to spawn 3 of them. Which, per my usual, I'll just throw a switch in there so that we can sort of just tick, tick, tick. Are you spawning once, please? There. Now, interesting that that isn't going anywhere. It did emit one, which is nice. I mean, that's nice. Why as I'm taking this forward, is it not changing the index on this? Just because there's nothing wired into it or out of it or whatever? What if I hook these up? I'm sorry, what is happening here? My iterator just don't iterate? Oh, I didn't wire in the total. Boy, does that ever figure. It just figures. Why are you not moving to the destination? I just don't understand that. Well, debugging time. Go into bake emitted objects. Select this emitted object. And take a look at your data. 100. The distance set correctly. This isn't set to pass through anymore. That's why. That's part of why. .640 and 1. Now, I'm still not entirely sure. You're clearly not at 2.640 and 1. I can just look at you and tell that you're not. Oh, stupid. Stupid times. Big stupid. The microchip in this thing is not attached to the goober, so of course it's not going to move. Yeah, great. So it moves to there for some reason. Because why wouldn't it? I think that perhaps the issue is that I'm not actually getting the position of this tag, I'm getting the whole thing. The whole transform. And that's not actually what we want. That's just a different kind of broken. But it is a different kind of broken. So that's interesting. I'm pretty sure that that much is working okay because this is... Well, I guess I'll find out, won't I? That was not what I meant to do. No, look at the microchip on that guy, please. Where's the microchip? It's just over here permanently? Okay, hold on. I have to do better. Better. Yeah, there we go. Now we've got some wires I can actually see. Things aren't just hovering awkwardly at the origin. Negative 2.61, 0.38, 0.06. I mean, is that really where... Oh, you know what? It's probably just... Hey, it's working perfectly. Who knew? The tag was actually down there. Who could have ever seen it coming? Very weird. I wanted it to move up to there. And now, lo and behold, it does. Good. So that's kind of step one. We can spawn like a few of those. And when we do so, now we need some logic over here that will actually trigger the spawning of more. And that's where things are really gonna get crazy. Okay, Tetrasphere is actually like such good music. Can I get the Tetrasphere soundtrack on Spotify? I have to check now. No. No, I cannot, alas. I'll just have to get it from YouTube. Okay, what next? When the thing gets there, it needs to do something. Now, it's sending out the wireless transmitter, but I need to set up the wireless receiver now for some of that stuff and continue this whole process. So I grab a wireless receiver, which I should turn precise move on again. We'll make it a cylinder here. That'll do. This is going to transmit something. I guess I'm not sure what. I guess node info is what I said I would be transmitting. So that's what we'll be transmitting. Now I think I can just persistently transmit that. I can just build up a... Well, I can't completely do it. I mean, I guess I can do a little bit of awkward splitting and rejoining if I want, where like I can do it's easier, I think, if I don't have to manage multiple collision volumes. So I'm gonna do a 4-number thing here, where number 1 is the ID, or the letter of the node, and then the remaining 3 numbers are position. There's gonna be a little bit of like splitting and rejoining, but it means that I only have to use 1 wireless transmitter receiver pair for this, which should hopefully avoid some pain. This music just blows my mind, dude. It's so good. Why is music this good in like just some obscure Tetris-based puzzle game for the N64? That's the final number. So that will be just persistently transmitting, which should be totally fine. Because what we can do is over here, when we get node info, we can pipe that back to this guy here. Now, I think we can actually do ourselves some good here by doing a little bit of wireless, or we can do a little bit of shoot, I was thinking, oh, I can do some cool stuff with exclusive gates. I'm not sure I can do some cool stuff with exclusive gates. Let's, again, one step at a time with this. We're going to get node info, and I need to split it out and sort of parse the data in a sense. That's going to be of type 4, and then some of it's going to be recombined into 3 for the position. So ID and position there. When we get to a node, we need to somehow talk back to our origin node to report back about, hey, how long did it take us to get there? Where is it? And this thing can just, I guess, reject that data if there's already something with shorter distance or equivalent distance there, which is what allows us to actually like flow across the whole graph. So I guess probably what we want to do is actually send, maybe we don't need either of these, and what we actually need to do is just wire this back to our friendly neighborhood valve here that spawned us. The tricky thing is that if multiple things arrive at once, this is why I was like, oh, I'll just throw an exclusive gate on it. Brilliant idea, except here, what does it say about exclusive gates? All exclusive gates with the same name use the priorities to collaborate. I thought so. I thought so. This is my struggle here. I'd like to use the here scope, but you know what? Can I ungroup something here? I mean, I guess that does it, right? No, I need it to be grouped because variables, frack. I need it to be grouped in this particular way because I need these variables to be able to set correctly and to have like individual variables per thing that I spawn. I also would like to make sure that I'm only processing kind of like one node that arrived at its destination at a time, and I'll just make a globally exclusive gate. It's fine. This will be like node, it'll be just like arrived. We're just gonna have a gate called arrived over here, and if this gate is outputting, let's see, active I guess is what I want. When the gate is active, we'll turn on our transmitter here that's just like, I made it, yay! Just in order to keep everything nicely in sync. That gate will only be we probably don't want to just use the active wire there, do we? We probably do want to actually have something powering it on. Yeah, I'm kind of going about this backwards because we want to actually take the entire signal coming out of here, which should be a full bypass, I think. And use that to wire back to here with like a node arrived and here's the info. Arrived info. Oh, end of the playlist. That's not where I rewinded to. YouTube is such hot trash. Okay. So when it arrives, we are going to kind of run a whole separate chunk of logic related to spawning more. It's going to be interesting. Because we need to somehow get a list of positions back from the other node, from the other valve. That's gonna be difficult. That's gonna be difficult. That's gonna be all kinds of difficult, but that's fine. So maybe once the node has arrived somewhere else, what does it do though? I know that we're going to have another emitter of like the same stuff with similar I don't know where it got that scale from. It's going to have another emitter with slightly different but mostly the same behavior. Let's split out our info because we can. Get the ID in position. First thing to do, save the data. Don't worry about spawning more, save the data. And what does saving the data entail? I guess it means we're going to, if this is the selector we're using for setting, we're going to grab the ID of it. We have to subtract 1, I guess. Well, really, there's no need to. Now that I think about it, we could, because positions are never all going to be 0, 2, we can actually shift this down to be 0 indexed and save ourselves a little bit of pain. So this will like select a particular thing that we're going to be writing to and reading from. The access of all this data is so confusing. It's so gross to not have some sort of like array type that you can rely on. That was the wrong thing to put on there anyway. I wanted to grab a timeline, not an action recorder. So this is like my setting timeline. Let's see, I want to shrink this down to 10 this way. Or if I want 0 through 9, which is going to be a full 10 things, then that's gonna be like this, right? Frickin' controls are being really, really clumsy. There we go. That's sufficient. We have 10 things here, right? Actually, we have more than that. This will allow me to hook up to each of these down here. And easily power them on one at a time. This saves me some manual wiring that I was doing before, basically. The only weird thing, I guess, is that when I wire into playhead position, it's based on well, since this is a multiple of 10, I can actually cheat. I want to grab a, here we'll grab a copy of this slider up here. We will wire this into the playhead position. I guess not directly. We won't directly wire it into the playhead position, but we will divide it by 10. I think that's accurate. Yep. This lets me easily just power any of those 10. Easy peasy. And that very conveniently collapses a whole bunch of really gross looking stuff. All into one convenient little timeline where I can pop it open and just look at what's wired into what. No manual wiring of a bunch of selector power stuff. Hey, Egg Lego. How's your advent of code going? Let's see, I think what this is gonna do for me, I have to, like, when I get here, I need to actually, like, kind of run a little script or power some stuff. Can you put timelines on timelines? Is it possible? It's possible. Think of the possibilities. Oh, and that one's a hard 10 seconds long, though. Okay, so that's the catch. Is that they have actual lengths. And if I were to like shrink this here, then I'm like extending or trimming that one, which is weird. I don't want to do this. Check out your what? Man, all of this has to go into some power thing, doesn't it? Some powered microchip. It's going to do a bunch of shenanigans. Shenanigans such as what? Let's see here. Gosh, I'm a little too tired to be doing this, but I want to make some good progress here before I go to bed. I need to save this data by getting... Ah, man. I'm losing it, man. I need to get the distance value that's currently saved in there. If my distance value is greater than the distance already stored there, then I need to update what's stored there because I found a shorter... No, this literally doesn't make sense. If there's any value stored at all, then ignore it. So I'm trying to do a sort of shortest path following system. If you've heard of Dijkstra's algorithm, I'm trying to sort of do something like that. And it's also about 1 a.m. here, and I'm really kind of running on fumes, a little worse than I thought I was. So I'm trying to get to kind of a reasonable stopping point with this, where I have some basic achievement of like thing traverses to other node and records its traversal. So basically we've got a graph layout, something like this, and say that I'm starting at D. I'm trying to, for each node, process how many steps away each other node is and how to get there. Really, how to get there is the main thing. If I'm at D and I want to go to J, respecting the rules of the problem, I have to first go to A, and then to I, and then to J, because that takes 3 steps, which would slash my timer down to 27 minutes within the construct of the Advent of Code problem. The tricky thing is that it needs to be the shortest path as well, because it needs to, in order to get the optimal result for the problem, which is kind of the assignment, I have to go to A first, then to I, then to J. I should not, for example, go to C, then to B, then to A, then to I, then to J. No, I'm not using a laser scope, and that I don't think that would help me in this case. The problem is that I'm not interested in the Euclidean distance to something else, right? I'm not interested in the actual distance to there. I'm talking about the sort of graph distance. How many steps away are you? Because within the construct of the Advent of Code problem that I'm doing, I need to know how many that is because I need to perform this algorithm in sort of discrete steps. So, Advent of Code, if you're on, are you familiar with Advent of Code? So Advent of Code is a yearly programming challenge where there's a new programming problem every day of December, starting December 1st up until Christmas, and programmers from across the world try to solve the problems in their languages of choice. There's a leaderboard for whoever can submit answers the fastest, but many people do it sort of non-competitively. They just like to use the problems to learn a new programming language, or to brush up on one that they already know, or to sort of do job interview practice, because some of the problems are a little bit like what you would find on job interviews. I am being weird and deciding to do the problems in dreams as essentially a test for myself of the limits of the dreams logic system. And boy, am I... I'm really, really finding them here. Because this problem is tough as nails. It is so hard, and it's only day 16 of 25, but it's the last one I'm doing. I can't go any further. It's just a really thorny problem. So the problem is, going back to the view that I have here, the full problem is you have this graph here as your problem input, you have, these are essentially the descriptions of valves that can release like steam pressure. When you open a valve, it will release this much pressure per minute. So like if you open valve B, it'll release 13 pressure per minute. Now, you start at valve A. You have 30 minutes in total. Your goal is to release as much pressure as possible in 30 minutes. You can move to another valve, and that takes 1 minute. You can open a valve, and that takes 1 minute. And as soon as the valve is open, it begins releasing pressure on a regular basis. So the question is, can you find the optimal path through this graph that releases the most pressure? And that is not an easy computational problem to solve. I mean, you would have a hard time sitting down to do that by hand, even for a small graph like this, where it's like, well, this 21J down here, 21 pressure per minute is pretty good. You'd want to open that early so that you get the most out of the whole time that you have. So maybe you should go 1 minute down to here, 1 minute down to here, and then open this, so then you'd have 27 minutes times 21 pressure relieved over there. And then you would want to, I don't know, maybe go to D next. So that would be, then you go up here, and then here, and then here. But there's so many different ways that you could go around this graph, right? That like, how on earth do you figure out which one is actually optimal? And that's why this is a tricky programming problem. I've broken it down into steps. You can visit the valves in any order, and we need to find which order is optimal. Could you first check which ones are close to you, then check if that is closer to the goal than any other possibility? So this problem is constructed to make that difficult. There are situations you can easily get into where you can have what's called sort of a greedy algorithm. So say one example that is sort of a classic is, say that you have say that you are trying to fill up a backpack with like valuable materials for yourself. You're on the run and you're trying to like escape with your belongings, and so you've got a backpack that can carry up to 25 pounds of stuff, right? Like that's the most that you can carry. Or actually we'll say 30 pounds. I'm trying to sort of construct this problem according to how I remember it. You can fit at most 30 pounds of stuff into the backpack, and say that you have... Okay, hold on, the music is decided to be very distracting right now. So suppose that you have one item that is, let me see here. It weighs 5 pounds and is worth $20. You've got one that weighs 10 pounds and is worth $30. You've got one that, here, this one's like bigger still, 15 pounds and $40, and then 20 pounds for $50. Actually, did I construct this wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway, let's suppose, actually, that this thing can only hold 25 pounds, sort of like I said before. The naive thing to do would be to grab the most valuable items first. Just always start with the most valuable stuff, and then fill in with what's left. So then we would say, okay, well, this item with $50 is the most valuable. So we're definitely going to put that in. So we're up to $50 and have only 5 pounds remaining. And then we can only grab this other one that's worth $20. And now we have 0 pounds remaining. So we got a total of $70 out of it. But it would be better, I believe. I screwed up the explanation of the problem. Say that this thing, for the sake of explanation, let's say that this thing's only worth $10. You'd get $60 out of it. By starting with the most expensive thing first all the time, you can only get $60. The better thing to do is to pick these two items. They add up to a total weight of 25, but are worth $70 together. And so in general, it's not always, you don't always want to go for the closest thing, or the biggest thing, or the most valuable thing when you're trying to get the most optimal result overall. Unfortunately, sometimes a different set of things or a different order of doing things is unintuitive, but optimal. And finding that is hard. So that's what I'm dealing with here. So the way that I've broken this down is, I think so you can see first of all that a lot of these valves have zeros, so we can just ignore them. Beyond that, there are 6 valves that actually would need to be opened at any point during the problem. And really the problem is just about what order do you visit them. The order you visit them may result in a lot of backtracking and then would end up probably worse, but you kind of don't know in principle. It's hard to authoritatively rule something out. So if there are 6 valves to visit, there are 6 factorial ways to visit them. That's 720 possible ways that you could go through this graph. So, you know, you could go to B and then to C and then to D and then to E and then to H, but then you'd have to backtrack all the way to I and then to J, and that might just take too much time, and you would never actually get the most out of J, because that's a high value valve to open early on, but you know, and on the other hand, then you could sort of shuffle all the letters around in this list and get a different order to go through them. And so I essentially need to make a dreams program that will check all 720 cases to find which one is the best. That's what I'm doing. So I'm not, strictly speaking, trying to work it out mathematically. It's not straightforward to work it out mathematically. It's not really feasible at all, in fact. This is the realm of computers. You set up an automated process that will go through cases for you and test them out and report back with what's the optimal one. So I've got it broken down into steps. I do actually have it already in Dreams going through, and I've got this thing that like goes through the permutations, so you can see it has 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and then I can take it to the next one, and now we get 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 4. It's a different sort of shuffle of those numbers, and then I can go again. It chugs for a little bit. 0, 1, 2, 4, 3, 5. A different shuffle, and this actually will go through every possible shuffling of those in order to make sure that we check every possible order of valves that we could visit. So that part of it's working, but I had that working yesterday. I was trying to get some other stuff done tonight where like I have things that traverse from node to node to help me figure out the shortest path through the graph as part of the overall scope of solving this problem, which is just super hard. Bohala, thank you for the follow, by the way. Appreciate it. And I'm like so many layers deep now in my own head, and I'm tired and confused, and I'm just trying to get something sort of working before I go to bed, but that might not even really happen. I might just have to come back at this again tomorrow. My hope is between, if I stream work on this tomorrow evening and Friday evening, I should basically be able to get through the whole problem. I don't really want to be working on Christmas Eve, and I'm guaranteed to not be working on Christmas, and I'd rather not be defeated by this problem, so. Unfortunately, I'm getting sort of stymied by the whole, this whole situation is ending up kind of just wild. Am I experienced in dreams and comfortable with the tools? Relatively. Well, so I'm not that experienced in anything dreams is intended for. I have essentially, like, I'm a programmer. Programming is my jam. I do it for fun and profit. And everything that I do in dreams is typically some kind of like programming experiment in some way. The most ambitious thing I've done has been a sort of weird calculator that's like, that's sort of the layman explanation for what it is, but it's essentially like you can snap together like lists of expressions where I'm like, I want to add the numbers 3 and 4, get on there, and it'll do a bunch of wireless transmitter garbage and running around grabbing values from things in order to actually compute results. And you can actually like nest expressions and stuff in this weird calculator by sort of like stacking them on each other. So you can, I can grab multiplication here, and then I could sort of build up another expression there, and that would be part of it. So this is obviously impractical. Dreams has a system already that can do math, but the objective was to try and do something really, so I should get 19 out of this, 3 plus 16. The objective was to do something with Lisp being sort of a classic type of programming language. And I essentially made a rough version of that here. Thank you. Also, if you want to, like, you can nest these sort of as deep as you want, because you can actually just sort of lay out expressions in 3D space. So instead of like when you're writing down things on paper and you have to like put parentheses around things, and then it's like, you have this sort of outer group and then inner groups that sort of define all that. In dreams, you can just be like, I am gonna have this big chain of math happening. So then it'll be 3 times parentheses 16 basically, or it'll be 3 plus 4 times 4 in parentheses plus, okay, it really wants to be 7. It really wants to be 7. Who can say why it wants to be 7 so badly? We'll let it be 7. Plus 7 plus 2. And then it'll chug through the whole thing and come up with a bunch of the intermediate results. It'll grab that 16. It'll continue with the rest of its math. Lo and behold, we get is that right? It is right. Wait, hey, okay. I was like second guessing myself for a bit, but that's the right answer. Huzzah. So that's one crazy thing that I made. And of course, because this Advent of Code thing is a daily challenge, I have done all of these. I have, all of these things that like do different problems. So here's one that actually does use the laser scope you've been asking about. You were supposed to like figure out which trees were visible from the outside of this forest, where like you have a bunch of heights defined. And so I actually just have this guy run around and scan them all. And if one tree blocks another, then it doesn't get scanned. And so the ones that light up, we just have a running counter tracking the number of trees that were visible from the outside. So, nice analog way to compute the answer to that problem. There was this one that had me like, you're given a sort of starting set of crates and instructions for which stacks to go to and when to pick up and when to release things, and then you're supposed to like produce an answer for, you know, what's the like top crate on each stack after the whole sequence is done. So I actually like built this sort of like crane thing. And yeah, it's been fun. So is your advent calendar like on your Dreams account somewhere? This one's kind of wild. It's like a simulation problem about falling sand, where like you have sort of a dynamic set of walls that the problem gives you, and then you have to simulate sand falling in from a particular place and count how many things of sand will fall in before it all starts like spilling out the side. I couldn't really make it go faster, unfortunately. I couldn't really figure out a way to without breaking it. So this is what I have to deal with. Yeah, I can look at your advent calendar, I guess. What's the name, or what's the In Dreams link or something? Sure. Hit me with the In Dreams link. I've never done this before. It's just about to start spilling off the side now. Yay, there goes all the sand. Huzzah. I've linked my Dreams account and all that. I've just never actually used the whole In Dreams thing because I've like literally never played anything that anybody else has made in Dreams. I exclusively make things that are just weird programming with Kit Bash Dreamiverse assets. And that's it. That's what I do. Oh, this looks nice. Let's see. How to do this. I have to sign in. Okay. What happens if I click play now? Oh, that actually works. That's wild. Ha! Cool. Is there a... No. Is it just the original song? Is that all that the day one is? Let's see here. Ooh. I like the bass line here. This is great. And I like the theme you got going with the stocking saxophone. Man, I really admire you people with musical talent. Well, if I have to rewind or whatever, I can. Oh yeah, it's not exactly, Oh. Wait, how do I... Let's see. There we are. So like, what's your setup? How do you actually like feed music into this? I've never played with the audio creation tools because like, if you thought my visual and sculpting skills were bad, just you wait till you hear me try to do audio. Just manually laying it out on the timeline and stuff, or maybe it's not the timeline. Hold on, I wanted to... Oh, I can't go into the editor on that. That's fine. Okay, yeah. Well, that would help a lot, I'm sure. But props to you for just doing it all manually. It always just astonishes me what Dreams is capable of. And what people are capable of doing in it, obviously. Nice. I like the look of this scene a lot. Well, this is a pretty different genre so far. Well, if you don't mind, I might jump ahead to some of those and then call my stream for the evening, because I have to work tomorrow and I'm clearly out of mental capacity to program. And I'd like to hear what some of your later stuff sounds like, but then I've got to call it. I love that the bell actually like is synced up with the music that way. That's a nice touch. Let's see. Man, menus and everything. Look at that. Oh, and I see it's closed. Bonk. So let's see, what was today's? That's a real nice background. Five and 10. I will do 5 and 10. Penalties, huh? This is hilarious. No. Did that count? Is that really just your voice? That's funny. Nice. Almost got 50. I can't. That's fun. That's fun. Shoot the correct present into the box of the same color. To adjust the power of the presents being launched at, use X. Oh wait, hold on. Oh, I just... I see how this works now. Wait, how do I know when... Whoop. No. No. Too much. Too much. Gosh, that's harder. Ah. I got that one. I didn't get that one. Man. No! The red one's the hardest one. Come on, man! What do I need for this? Is this the correct red level? No! So you need like half power to get anything. Okay. Hey, there's one. That's way better. Way better. I want to give this one more go, now that I kind of understand. I'll take it. Yeah. Okay. Okay, too much. No. Give me presents. Come on, man. I'm getting robbed here. I'm getting robbed! Wait a minute! Robbed! Absolutely scammed. That's fun. That's fun. This is cool. Where is this one going off to? Well, that's really neat. Props to you for doing the whole Advent thing. That's a really fun challenge, and I like the results a lot. So, yeah, I'm gonna call it. I'll be back tomorrow night, hopefully more well rested. Hopefully get this Bizarro programming challenge done. It's been a long December. I put a lot of hours into this already so far. So looking forward to putting a bow on it and signing off from Dreams for a while. Go enjoy some more Christmas cookies and relaxation with family and all the rest of that. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you stopping by. And yeah, like I said, I'll be back tomorrow evening. So goodbye.